So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the GCSE Maths June 2022 Foundation Paper 1, which is the non-calculator paper. Now as always, I'll include a question breakdown in the description below so you can see which topic refers to which question. So let's get started on this June 2022 Foundation Paper 1, which is the non-calculator paper. So looking at question 1, it says circle the answer to 150 divided by 5. So again, if we do a bit of division, so if I set up my bus stop, 5 goes outside, 150 goes inside, 5s into 1 goes 0, carry the 1, 5s into 15 go 3, 0, so the answer is our second one, which is 30. It then says for 1b, circle the answers to 5, take away 7, and the one you want to circle is -2. Then for C, it says circle the answer to -3 times 3. Well, 3 times 3 is 9, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So the one I want to circle is the first one, -9. Then for question 2, it says P is double R. So that means that P equals double of R. So the correct answer is going to be our fourth option. Then moving on to question 3, it says by rounding each number to the nearest 10, estimate the value of 31 times 18. Well, 31 to the nearest 10 is 30. Oh, don't know what's going on there. Is 30, and 18 to the nearest 10 is 20. So then we just need to do 3 times 2, which is 6, and I've got 2 zeros, so then the answer is 600. Moving on to question 4, it says in this isosceles triangle AB equals AC, it says the perimeter of the triangle is 22, work out the length of AB. So if I just start by calling these two sides x, then what I know is that 2x plus 4 equals the total perimeter, which is 22. So that means that 2x is going to equal 18. So x equals 9. So then the distance of AB is going to be 9 centimeters. Then moving on to question 5, it says at school Priya will go running, do her homework or play a video game. Complete a list of the 6 possible orders in which she could do them. So let's go for this. So starting with R, we can then have R, V, H. Then we have, let's say, do homework first. So then the 2 other options are going to be R and then V and then V and then R. But then if she plays video games first, the 2 options are going to be R and then H and R. So you can have those in absolutely any order, but they all need to be different and all 6 need to be complete. Moving on to question 6a, says which statement is correct. So what we need to do here is actually work this out. Now remember that the inequality always points at the smaller number. So 17 plus 3 is 20, and 29 take away 10 is 19. So is this pointing at the correct one? No, so that one is wrong. Then working out the second one, we've got 17 plus 3, which is 20, and 29 minus 10 is 19. So that's not right. So then here we've got 20 is less than 19. So this is our correct answer. Now in terms of showing your working to support your answer, well, that's going to be what I've written down in each of those statements. Then for question 6b, it says work out, and then so here we just need to do a bit of bid maths. So we need to do the adding first. So here we've got, actually need to do the dividing first. So here we've got 60 divided by 2, which is 30, and then 30 plus 4 is 34. So then moving on to question 7, it says that Leah buys 400 grams of cereal and 250 grams of pasta. Work out the total cost in pounds. So looking at this, if we first calculate the cereal, well, if each of these prices is 100 grams and I need 400 grams, so that's going to be 4 lots of 49 pence. So it's going to be 0.49 plus 0.49 plus 0.49 plus 0.49. Then for the pasta, well, that's going to be 250. So that's for 100 grams. So that's going to be 14 pence. So it's going to be 0.14 plus another, so that takes it up to 200 grams, and then 50 grams is going to be 7p. So I just need to add 0.07. So then that's left for me to do is just to add them all together. So this is going to come up to a total of £1.96. And this is going to come up to 28 pence plus 7 is 35 pence. So it's going to be 0.35. And then all that's left for me to then do is add those together. So I've got 5 plus 6, which is 11. 9 plus 3, which is 12, plus 1 is 13. And then 1 plus 1 is 2. So it comes up to a total of £2.31. Then moving on to question 8a, it says for 5 sets of numbers, the mode is 8 and the median is 12. Work out one possible set of the 5 numbers. Now for this, there are several answers which we could give, but the key thing you need to remember when dealing with these questions is, first of all, I always recommend starting by having dashes for each of these. Now we know that the mode is 8, so we've got to have at least 2 8s, and the median is 12, so that means that the middle number needs to be 12. So these two numbers need to be smaller than 12. Now as the mode is 8, then we need to have 2 8s together. So then from this, what we then need to do is then pick any two numbers that are different. So these two numbers here need to be different and also more than 12. So again, there are so many different answers you can give to give that calculation, but any example of where that is done will be absolutely fine. So for this, we can give an answer of, let's say, well, absolutely anything. We could have any number. So you could even have 13 and 18. They'll be absolutely fine. But just have any two numbers where it's bigger than 12, but also that they're not the same numbers. So I'm going to go for 8, 8, 12, 20, and 22. Then for question 8b, it says here are the heights in centimeters of some children, and it says which height is an outlier, so which one stands out the most from the rest. So I would say it's going to be the 159. Then for question 9, it says Shona has 14 dresses. 50% of these dresses are red. She gives 5 of her red dresses to a charity shop and she buys 1 new red dress. What percentage of the dresses are now red? Well, if she starts with 14, then 50% of 14 is 7. Then she gives 5 of these 7 to, so it's got 7 red. And she takes away 5 red dresses. So 5 red dresses equals 2 red dresses. And then she buys a new one. So that equals 3 red dresses. Then we just need to work out how many dresses they've got altogether. Well, she had 14. She sold 5, so that's now 9. She buys a new one, so that's now out of 10. So it's going to be 3 over 10 times 100, which is 30%. Then moving on to question 10, it says here is a triangle. And it says, work out the length of the shortest side over the length of the longest side. Give your answer as a fraction as simple as possible. Now for this, we need to make sure that the units are the same. So for this, you can either work in centimetres or you can work in metres. So working in centimetres, we've got 120 and we've got 100. Now the shortest side is 40 centimetres, so that's going to be 40 over the longest side, which is 120. Then all that's left for me to do is to simplify this, so then that becomes 4 over 12, and I can divide both numbers by 4, so that becomes 1 over 3. Then moving on to question 10b, it says here is a different triangle, x equals 3y, work out the size of angle y. Well, for here, what we want to try and do is get the letters the same. So if x equals 3y, then I can swap that with 3y. And then knowing that all three angles in a triangle add up to 180. So what I've got is I've got 3y plus y plus 112 equals 180. Then going on to simplify this, I get 4y plus 112 equals 180. Take away 112 and I get 4y is going to equal 68. And then all that's left for me to then do is then do 68 divided by 4. And so 4s and 6 go 1, remainder 2. 4s into 28 go 7. So y equals 17 degrees. Then moving on to question 11, it says companies A and B sell insurance for mobile phones. The table shows the monthly cost for two types of cover for damage and loss. Work out the difference in the monthly cost of the two types of cover with company A. So here for this particular question, we just need to take away the two amounts. So that's going to be £12.20 minus £8.65. So then remembering that the top number needs to be bigger, so we can borrow. So here that we've got 0, and then we've got 11, and that becomes 12, turns to 11, and then we've got 10. So 10 take away 5 is 5, 11 take away 6 is 5, and 11 take away 8 is 3. So the difference then is going to be £3.55. Then for question 11b, it says Ben wants damage cover with company B. How much in total will he pay for 1 year? So if I go up, the damage pay with company B is £7.25. So it's going to be £7.25 multiplied by 12. So if I convert that into pence, I've got 725 multiplied by 12. Then whichever way you do your long multiplication. So here I've got 5 times 2, which is 0. Carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And then I've got 14. And then 5, 2, 7. Add them all together. So I've got 0, 10, and that's going to be 7, and that's going to be 8, giving me a total price of £87. Question 12, it says work out, and we've got two fractions here. So when subtracting, we need to get a common denominator. So I can get a common denominator by multiplying this second fraction by 6. So that becomes 11 over 18 minus 1 times 6, which is 6, 3 times 6, which is 18. And then 11 take away 6 is 5. So it's 5 over 18. Then for question 13a, it says the term-to-term rule for a sequence is multiplied by 2. The third term in the sequence is 46. Work out the first term, give your answer as a decimal. So if I just start by writing the three terms, we know that this is 46. So if going in this direction, we multiply by 2, then to go in the opposite direction, we need to divide by 2. So here, 46 divided by 2 is 23. Then if I do 23 divided by 2, I get, it's going to be 11.5. So the answer then is 11.5. Then moving on to question 13b, it says the term-to-term rule for a different sequence is subtract k. The first term is 34, the fourth term is 10. Work out the value of k. So looking at this, if I write down what the four terms are, now it says the first term is 34, and what I'm doing to get from 1 to 1 is take away k. Take away k, and then take away k again, and this answer here is 10. So then what I've got is if I write this as an equation, then what I've got is I've got 34 minus 3 lots of k equals 10. So then taking the 3k over to the side, I end up with 34 equals 3k plus 10. Then take the 10 over, so 24 equals 3k. So k equals 8. And so what I then need to do is subtract k. So then the answer then is going to be just 8, because it's already telling me to subtract 8. If I wrote minus 8, it then becomes minus 8, which then becomes plus 8. So then moving on to question 14, it says work out the vector that translates shape A to shape B. So I'm going from this shape to this shape. Now when it comes to translations, you want to pick a point and pick the corresponding point on the new shape, and then just need to work out what the count is going to be. Now the top number is always the horizontal movement, so I'm going right, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So top number is positive 7, and then I'm going down 2 places, so that's minus 2. So the column vector is going to be 7 minus 2. So then moving on to question 15, it says in a bag there are only red discs, blue discs and green discs. There are 10 red discs. When one disc is picked at random, the probability of selecting a red is 1 over 8. The probability of getting a blue is 2/5. How many green discs are there in the bag? So let's have a look. So if 10 equals 1/8, then 8/8 is going to be 10 times 8, which is 80. So there are 80 discs altogether, or in total. Now in terms of the blue, so we know that there are red, there's 10 discs. So then the blue is going to equal 2/5 of 80. So 80 divided by 5 is 16, times 2 is 32. And then the green discs, well, that's going to be 80 minus 10 minus 32. So if I add these two numbers up, I get 42. So it's 80 take away 42. And then doing a bit of division, we get 38. So the answer then is 38. Then moving on to question 16, it says here is a graph of y equals 7 minus 3x. Draw the graph of y equals 2x plus 1 on the grid, and then work out an approximate solution to 7 minus 3x equals 2x plus 1. So the first thing we need to do here to draw this is to do a table of values. So here if I just pick 3 small numbers of x, so let's go for 0, 1 and 2. Then this number here is going to be 2 times 0 plus 1. So 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. And 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So then from this, I just got to plot those coordinates. So I've got 0, 1, which is here, 1, 3, which is there, and 2, 5, which is there. And then all that's left for me to then do is to draw a straight line through those 3 points. And this is going to be a little bit fiddly on the computer. And you want to make sure that you extend the line so that it definitely crosses with the line that's on there. But general rule of thumb is that when you are plotting lines, try and go right to the edge of where the graph paper starts and finishes, like so. Now where the solution is going to be, it's going to be where the 2 lines meet, and I make it out to be around about to 1.2, I would say. Now the question does say, because you're drawing a graph, if you were to, you can solve this algebraically. So if I had 7 minus 3x equals 2x plus 1, I could solve it by taking the 3x over to the other side. So I've got 7 equals 5x plus 1. I can then take the 1 over to the other side, so I end up with 6 equals 5x. Then divide by 5, so I end up with x equals 6 over 5, which is 1.2. But using the graph is going to be a lot easier, particularly as you've already drawn the equation as well. For question 17, it says part of the circle is shaded. Circle the name of the shaded part, and that is going to be a segment. Then for question 18, we've got a bit of standard form. So it says work out, let's just zoom in a little bit. And it says work out, and we've got 80 million divided by 200. Well, for this, what we can do is we can start by just writing the number out and just making sure you've got the right number of zeros over 200. Then I can cancel the zeros. So then here I've got what is 800,000 divided by 2, which is 400,000. And then we need to write that in standard form. So that's going to be 4 times 10 to the power of 5. Then moving on to 19.8 says work out. And so give your answer as a whole number. So when we're dividing, what do we do to the powers? We take away. So that's going to be 3 to the power of 12 take away 7, which is 5. So then all that's left for us to do is work out what 3 to the power of 5 is going to be. So that's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Now, you can then work this out which way you want to do. So I'm going to work this out as 9 times 9 times 3. And these two things here, 81 times 3. So then 81 times 3 is going to be 243. Then moving on to 19b, it says simplify. So here we've got to change the base of 8. Now 8 is equal to 2 cubed. So if I swap 8 with 2 cubed, it then becomes 2 cubed times 2 to the power 6 times 2 to the power 4. Now when we're multiplying, what do we do to the powers? Well, we add them. So that then becomes 2 to the power of 3 plus 6 plus 4, which is 2 to the power of 13. So then moving on to question 20 says, in a group of 98 students, 25 study both art and French, 10 study art but do not study French, and 41 study French. Joel draws the Venn diagram to represent the information. Make 2 criticisms of the diagram. Well, the first criticism is that all of these numbers need to add up to the total, which is 98, but they don't because they all add up to 99. So the first criticism is that the sum of all numbers in the Venn diagram do not add up to 98. And the second criticism is that the Venn diagrams or the circles aren't labeled. So the circles or the groupings not labeled, because which one's French and which one's art? Moving on to question 21, it says circle the letter of the possible sketch of x cubed minus 4. So what we're looking for with a cubic graph is we're looking for an S shape, and we're looking for where it crosses the y-axis at minus 4. And so a possible graph, well, the only one that it could be is going to be A. So then moving on to question 22, it says in a week, Samir is paid a basic hourly rate for the first 30 hours and an overtime hourly rate for any extra hours worked. The graph shows his pay for working up to 40 hours in a week. And the question is asking us to work out the ratio of the basic hourly rate to the overtime hourly rate, giving our answer in as ratio in its simplest form. So for this, what we need to do is first of all work out the two sections. So this first part of the graph is the basic pay, which is a very poorly drawn line, and this part here is the overtime. Now what we need to do is to work out the hourly rate, I need to work out the gradient of each of those sections. So the basic pay, and looking at the ratio here, well, looking at the triangle, for 30 hours pay, he's getting £450. So he's getting £450 over 30 hours. Now, if I simplify that fraction, I can take a 0 off. So it's 45 divided by 3, which is £15 per hour. Then for the overtime rate, I do exactly the same. I work out the gradient. So working out the difference in the pay here is going to be 700 take away 450, which is 250. So it's £250, and he's worked a total of 10 hours. So then 25, so that's going to be £25 per hour. So then all that's left for me to do is then write this as a fraction. So we're looking at basic to overtime. And basic is £15 per hour, overtime is 25. Simplifying that the ratio, I can divide both numbers by 5, so it becomes 3 to 5. So I just need to write 3 to 5 just there, and we're done for that question. Then for question 23a, it says in each box write a fraction less than 1 to make the correct calculation. So when we're multiplying, we multiply the two numerators together, and we multiply the two denominators together to get those respective values. So for this, we're looking for two numbers that multiply together equal 3, which in this most often is going to be 3 and 1. Then we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you 10, and that can be 5 and 2. So as long as these two numbers, the bottom two numbers, multiply to give you 10 and the top numbers multiply to give you 3. But you can also look at simplifying, so there are loads of different options. So if you're not sure about your answer, just simply plug it into a calculator, press equals, and hopefully you should check to make sure your answer is correct. Then for question 23, it says in each box write a decimal less than 1 to make the correct calculation. So again, a number of different options you could have for this one, but I would say the most common one might be 0.6 times 0.1, or you could have 0.3 and 0.2, and you can have those numbers in absolutely any order. Then for question 24, it says use a ruler and a compass for this question. A, B, C, D represents the garden. A tree is planted in the garden. The tree will be in the region that is closer to AB than BC. Label the region R where the tree could be planted. Show your construction lines. Now, doing this on computer is going to be very difficult, but basically what we need to do is we need to do an angle bisector between the lines of AB and BC. So for this, we find the common letter, which is B. So you're going to put your compass at B, and then what you're then going to do is to draw an arc. So putting your pen, you're going to draw an arc and B, and you should end up with something that looks like this. And what you want to do is just show where it intercepts the point of AB and BC. Now, without adjusting your compass, now put your pin at this point here and draw an arc so it's somewhere in the middle. Then you put the pin without adjusting your compass on the second intersection point, and you should have something that looks like that. Then what you then want to do is from your using your ruler is join that point B to that point there. So if I just draw a line like so. Now hopefully yours is going to be a little bit more accurate than mine, but hopefully you get the gist. And we want the tree to be closer to AB than BC, so it can be anywhere on this side here. And you want to label that as R. Then moving on to question 25, it says here are two shapes P and Q. It says 3/4 of the circle P and with a radius of 20, and Q is 1/3 of a circle with a radius of 15. How many times bigger is the area of P than the area of Q? So looking at this, the area, well, to work out the area of a circle is pi r squared. Now, this circle here, for the area of P, well, if it's got a radius of 20, substituting that in, well, it's going to be pi times 20 squared, and it's 3/4, so I need to times that by 3/4. So working this out, this gives me 400 pi. So then dividing that by 4 becomes 100 pi times 3 equals 300 pi. Then if I do the same for Q, so the area of Q Well, the full circle is going to be pi times 15 squared, and I need to multiply that by a third. Now 15 squared is 225, so it's going to be 225 pi divided by 3, and then I need to divide that by 3. So then 225 divided by 3, if I just quickly work that out, so carry the 2, 3 is going to 22, that's going to be 7 times, remainder 1, and that's going to be 75, so that's going to be 75 pi. So then the thing that's left for me to do is just write this as a percentage. So then all I've got to do then is do 75 pi over 300 pi multiplied, or just want to work out how much times bigger it is. So the pi's cancel, so it's just 75 over 300, which I can simplify, dividing both numbers by 5, or 25 actually. So let's go for, how many 25s going to 75? That's going to be 3. That's going to be 12, and then that simplifies to be a quarter. So how many times bigger is P to Q? Well, it's going to be 4 times bigger. Then moving on to question 26, let me just zoom in. So here we've got 2W over 15 equals 4/5. So for this, what we need to do is cross multiply. So I've got 2W multiplied by 5 equals 4 times 15. So 2W times 5 is 10W, and 4 times 15 is 60. Then take the 10 over, so it becomes 60 over 10, which is 6. Then for question 27, it says the solid has a volume of 300 cubic centimeters and a density of 2 grams per centimeter cubed. Circle the mass of the solid. So density equals mass over volume. So mass equals density times volume. So that's going to be 300 times by 2, which is 600. So the answer then is going to be the last option of 600. Then for question 28, our last question, it says x to y is 3 to 5. Circle the value of 2x over y. So if we first of all write this as a fraction, so we've got x over y equals 9 over 5. Then if we multiply this fraction by 2, I've then got to multiply this fraction by 2. So that then becomes 18 over 5, which is my second option, and then we are done.